Guys, welcome to another case study interview. I'm with
Vanch.
super stoked to have you here, bro. We're both pretty tired. As traveling to Australia, I was awake for the longest period of time I've ever been awake, which is like 30 plus hours. And Vant has woken up pretty early to be here as well. So we're a little bit tired, so forgive us if we're a little bit slow. But man, I wanted to get you on an interview because what a story. Like, you've achieved so much more than I ever could have at your age.
Yeah.
Bench is 19, by the way, as well, for full context. 2 months ago, he did 8.5K a month as a setter. Last month, he did 8K, and it's only going up and up and up. And this is just as an appointment setter, by the way. This is not even closing. So that's the highlights. If we were going to start from, I guess, the start, like before you actually met me, where were you at? Like, what degree were you studying at uni? Well, still studying, I assume.
Still studying.
Right?
Now.
So, like, what degree were you studying? How did you find me? All that type of stuff, good stuff.
So, when I first looked into the sales space, this was back in actually January 2024 when I'd first turned 19. And I have a really close friend of mine, Arnav, as you know.
Yeah.
We've talked about him a bit here. And he introduced me to the idea of sales. He had a chat with me and sat me down and was like, Vanch, if you want the lifestyle you're looking for, you want that freedom and you want to be able to just basically never be broke again, you've got to go into sales.
Interesting.
You've got to go into sales because it's the one cornerstone or the one foundational skill that you need to be able to unlock anything practically. It's the way you talk to people, it's the way you carry yourself, it's the way you get deals done, it's the way you start businesses. Sales is the be-all and the first thing you need to learn. So I started off with looking at a couple of, everyone knows his videos on the internet.
Yeah.
Month, and obviously this was around January, Feb, so uni just hadn't started yet. By around March, uni had kicked in, so I had to manage second year uni. And then I also came across you from Arnav again. He sent me an Instagram page, your Instagram page.
Yeah,
And on
which
that
is
Instagram
shit,
page-
by the way.
Yeah. Definitely could be optimized more, but there was a lot of results and testimonials there, and I was like, you know what, my gut feel says I trust this guy.
Interesting.
There's a lot of testimonials he's got there to back up.
Interesting. So it was just the testimonials, or was it anything else?
The testimonials, because I didn't know too much about the course initially and what the RSA had to provide. So I just watched one of your videos. I was like, well, fuck the video. I'm going to the calendar because I know it's going to be a closing call.
Yeah.
Because I had experience with other high-ticket products. So
Yeah, of course.
there's always the Calendly link there. You book in, you have a chat with the guy for 45 minutes, and he asks for your money at the end of the day.
Yeah. So you did a coaching program previously. I'll let out the name of the coaching program specifically.
Yeah.
But you did that coaching program.
Yeah, it wasn't a sales course. It was just like to improve your performance in general.
So it was a very relatively like small, low ticket product.
No, it was very expensive.
How much was it?
7.5K AUD.
Wow. That's crazy. And so before we go into like our sales call that we had together, which I don't remember, by the way, so you're going to have to refresh me. But what do you feel was missing in that previous training program that you did? Because that's not a small amount of money that you spent, especially at your age. That's exactly what I spent when I was, around 19. So what was missing for you to pursue like further education then?
I don't think it was more like missing. It was more like a synergistic move.
Interesting.
Because what I learned previously in the first course was like how to get into flow, how to be focused, how to stay switched on and recover properly.
Right.
And so I needed to combine that with a skill set that would make me more money, which was sales. So it wasn't necessarily like a bad course. It was more just like adding on to what I'd already known and learned.
Gotcha, okay.
So that's what sales was for me, and that's when I booked the closing call with you.
Interesting.
I just remember, I think there was something in the video. It's like, oh, you must watch this full video before clicking the Calendly link. I was like, fuck that, just straight onto the closing call.
I can't even remember what type of video that was, so I guess we'll never know. But so you booked in a call and you spoke to me, right?
I spoke to you, yeah.
What was our conversation like? Like, what do we even talk about?
I think I remember, like, it was just trying to prove myself.
Yeah, I remember actually.
He was trying to prove me.
I remember you came on and you were great actually. I don't even remember it being much like a sales call at all. You were just like, nah, man, I'm ready to go.
I'm clean, just get me in.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those prospects who asked for price straight away though.
Yeah.
He's gonna do the typical questioning method of discovery, and then he'll pitch it. So I'll just have to hang in here for 40 minutes and try yap my way through.
Yeah, and that's wild. And so you made the way through, and you were like, you didn't have all the money together, and you're like, we can do a payment plan. and we'll figure it out. And you did.
Yeah.
And so you came in, and something to observe with you as well is like you were very much like ready to get after it. Like I noticed that about you from the beginning, and it's obviously stood true because we're now at the end of the year in December in Melbourne, Australia, and I've come from the other side of the world in Dubai,
Exactly.
and now we're doing this interview, and you're crushing it. But you came past the sales call, you joined in. What happened after that?
It's the universal truth everyone says. Every other video says this. It's just listening to Connor and following what he's put out there.
Yeah.
It's the unspoken rule. You just know it from day one. The second you're in the
Unspoken and spoken rule.
RSA. Just the second you're in, you know, like that's what you're gonna follow. So
Yeah.
I just jumped straight to the networking modules because I know the identity stuff was there, but
Yeah.
I've already had a lot of experience with mindset and the identity I needed to have.
Yeah.
I still watched it anyway. Just wanted to learn more. There's always more to learn, and you can never disregard anything. But I just went straight to the networking module, put the first X amount of people and companies within like 2 days, and was like just following up and hassling you. in
Yeah,
DMs,
which is
being
great
like-
actually.
Being like, yo, I've done this. Can you critique it? Let me know what I've done here.
Yeah.
And eventually paid off because I actually managed to land an offer within the first 4 weeks.
Nice.
But there was a bit of a crossroads I was dealing with here. Because I just enrolled into uni for Sem 1. Sem 1 was still going on at the time.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able
semester 1, by the way, for people that aren't Australian.
Yeah, semester 1.
Yeah.
So I was still going through and trying to commit with uni and sales.
Mhm.
And that's probably why I didn't get that offer in the end. Because while I was offered it, the guy like ghosted me and didn't really reply to me back.
Right.
And I was thinking it was probably to do with my availability. Because I know a lot of these sales companies, they want SDRs, setters, closers who are full-time.
Yeah, which is something for context as well. Like if you're looking at the high ticket sales space, you can do it part time, absolutely. Like there's opportunities for you to do so. Like I've got a guy who made like Rob 14, 15K US last month part time closing, but there's just less opportunity available for you. It's just something to realize. If you can go into it full time and you're confident the role can surpass your current income, then it's perfect and you can do so. But it's just a bit of context because I know a lot of people ask me all the time, like, can you work part-time, full-time or whatnot? It's possible, you can do it. It's just more difficult if you go part-time, but carry on.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it was like at a time where it was past the withdrawal date. So I can't back out without failing my units.
Yeah,
Because having to explain that, it's going to be like, what the hell did you just back out for?
yeah,
So despite like struggling those first few months, what I had seen in the first 4 weeks particularly was that I've still got it in me and I'm doing this part-time. Imagine doing this full-time.
yeah, exactly.
If I landed a role within 28 days, you usually say 30 days is the benchmark. And if you're just following the modules, and I'm doing that with full-time engineering, which bear in mind was like not easy.
No,
Civil
not at all,
engineering
bro.
is not easy stuff.
Not at all. No, I can't imagine doing it, bro, because I never did university, so
Exactly.
yeah, I hated school, but
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm low-key leaning towards the same position.
yeah,
now, so-
yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, it gave me that potential and belief that it's like, going all in is a possibility, but we can't do it now logistically.
Yeah,
It wasn't just like fear or anything. It was more just like logistics of just like, well, I've got to ride the semester out, finish it off, and then reevaluate where to next from there.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually I just stuck to the all-in principle. I was like, well, while I'm in uni, I might as well just go all in with uni, finish it to the best of standards, and then come back later on. Which is why, like, I think throughout May, June, I just disappeared for a month or so, if you remember that.
I mean, I have a lot of clients that disappear, come back, tell me they're crushing it. Happens a lot. So
Yeah, so I just completely disappeared for a month from everyone
yeah.
because exams were on, end of uni semester, it's always packed.
It's super intense, man. Like it's fairly warranted because, yeah, all my clients that are still at university all say the same thing. It's like, I just need a month or two to come back. 'cause
Exactly.
it's super stressful time.
Exactly. This is the same thing that happened there. So just had to like really understand that I can't balance everything at once, and even
Yeah.
having a shotgun approach where you're scattered and focused on multiple things isn't going to get you that far.
Yeah.
So all my main process was just to survive through uni and then see what was there. And again, this is where Arnav comes in again, my good mate.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, Vanj, I'm doing X, Y, Z. I'm doing ABC. I'm doing YouTube.
I'm moving. I'm
moving.
progressing.
I'm
Yeah.
progressing, right. I'm going to probably move on from uni to do this. And we had a very brief chat in the car that day. I was like, if you're doing this right now and I'm able to land a role by the end of June, so it was about 10 days from out. It was like June 18. if I could get a role by June 28, I was like, you know what, bro, I'll do it with you.
Sick.
I'll defer with you.
Nice. That's good.
And all I did was like, guys, if you ever struggle and you're starting from like a month break, just start from square one again. And just reflect on the takeaways you had from your first phase of just looking for an offer. That's the exact thing I did. All I did was focus on like interviews, offer, and how to find it, how to screen it. I didn't focus or worry too much about the skill set necessarily. It was just getting my foot in the door. Because the second I can do that, all you need to do from there is just prove your work ethic, and your soft skills take care of the rest. If you have the willingness to show up, get the work ethic in, and show that you're improving, even if you have no experience, a lot of these sales guys are going to back you in.
Yeah,
That's the exact thing you got to have.
The right mentality.
Absolutely right.
Progression, not perfection, is the important thing, guys. Like, I work with a lot of people, 250 clients in the last 18 months. And the biggest thing I see a lot of people mess up is they look for perfection, and they always look for the perfect action that they can do, and always wanting to make it work. Spoiler alert, I'm sure you have experienced this, on coaching calls with me, when I've had to come and like full on like roast you on like fix this, fix that, because that's what sales is. It's very ruthless in that aspect of critiquing. Like, you have to be willing to be critiqued. You have to be willing to do imperfect actions, because everything you're going to do in this journey of making money online, but particularly high ticket sales, is going to be far from perfect. And there's going to be so many times where you feel like you don't know what you're doing, and you're absolutely clueless, and you're confused, and you feel like you're in kindergarten again. Like, you feel like you're useless at times. That's something that you have to be prepared for if you're super serious about this, because I'm sure you can attest, it's difficult. It's 100%. Not easy. It's confusing, and it's very new at the start. And even now, you're still getting your emotions in, and you're doing well, but there's still so much to learn.
Absolutely. And I think a way to overcome that sort of like issue of there's so much to learn is that if you just take imperfect action, you'll never be this bad again. Like, every day, if you just take the action and just do what's there, you can just remind yourself that you're better than before. And that's a win in itself to acknowledge.
Absolutely. So you came in and you made the pacts with your friend that you're going to go all in if you guys were doing it all in together. So what happened from there? Did you jump into a role full time? Like, what was the steps from there?
Yeah, I mean, I just kept searching for offers. I got like a few interviews.
Yeah.
I probably got 4 or 5 interviews the following week and just screened everything out.
Nice.
A couple of guys ghosted. A couple said I wasn't the right fit. But I got a message from another offer owner who just reached out to me and be like, hey, Vange, you still looking for a sales role? And I knew this was like a legitimate offer because I know Richard's on it. So I was like,
I know the one.
Sign me up.
Yep.
Sign me up, put me in. I'll do it. And I went through the whole onboarding process, the interview stage. I just had to prove that I was willing to like work and work on my soft traits too. So my soft skills, because I had no genuine sales skills yet. I was still new to the process. Just had to prove that I was willing to go all in and do everything I can to get this business money and help out people with their services.
100%. So that was Rich's company. I won't say the name of the company, but I know the one. But pretty much, like, do you want to give the guys a quick description or a bit of context on like what that was and what you were selling at the time?
Yeah, I was working fitness, but it was a bit of a unique role because I wasn't doing like, it was like a bit of a hybrid of setting and closing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it wasn't binary. It wasn't setting or closing. It was like mixed between it both. But I just did it because I was like, I just have to get my phone skills up. I have to be comfortable talking to people, get over the nerve of talking to people.
Yeah. So you got in there to do the repetition, and it was a little bit of a different role to kind of high ticket sales, kind of not, more like traditional type company.
Yeah.
How much were you doing per month on that role?
I was doing around like 5-6 grand a month.
Yeah.
Because I was just honestly spending my whole time at the CRM.
Yeah.
From when I'd wake up to when I'd sleep, I'd have it open for 15 hours a day, wait for new people to like inquire interest and just get back to them as quickly as possible. Because I know the second I got back to them, it was basically my customer to nurture and guide through the process and get them signed up.
Gotcha. Okay. So it was more or less a role that helped you get more frequency of sales data and interaction, just getting used to being on the phone, basically.
That's it.
Okay, makes sense.
That's it.
And so how many months were you in to doing that? You know, obviously you had your exam period. So if we don't count the exam period when you weren't actually working towards your goal, how many months was it till you got to that point where you're like 5K a month?
It took me about probably 2.5 months.
Not bad.
Within 2.5 months, I was at 5K a month.
Not bad at all. Definitely a lot faster than most of the business models that I can probably think of. SMMA,
100%.
dropshipping profits. I mean, look, again, I like to say all the time, like, all these business models absolutely do work, but like to get to 5K a month profit in an SMMA would be very difficult as a 19, 20, 21 something year old when you don't have those skills. Like, could you, before you were in sales and you had the structure you had now, could you ever really even imagine getting on calls with like high level business owners and closing them on thousands of dollars deals, packages, recurring?
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
I definitely couldn't have when I was a lot younger, because I think a lot of people overestimate their skill with sales, and they think they're good at sales. They think that they're a lot better than they are, but I can tell you, once you actually get on the call, it's a different. If it's just a different playing field. Like you think that you know how to sell, and then you actually get on the phone, and everything just goes out the window. Especially when you're not experienced.
Yeah, like if you're gonna be scrambling to try find resources and scripts to help you, but that's different to like the acumen you develop from talking to people over time.
100%.
It's not, the scripts aren't gonna help you with the context that you're in on a call. Eventually, over time, you'll have those awkward calls where you're just like, well, I don't know what to do. You accept your fate for it, review it critically, and then come back firing it, and then come back better.
100%. Most people think that like sales is as simple as just getting a script, right?
So,
If you're a new person watching this, you're, you know, just because I know there's a lot of marketers out there that, you know, you're going to get my magical script and the magical this and magical that. In reality, that's not how it works. You can't sell with a script and a script alone. It takes reps and repetition. So like if you're trying to start your own marketing agency or, you know, some type of service-based business, it's very difficult from two aspects. In an aspect that you don't have much experience on the phone, and you won't be able to get much experience because with your limited business knowledge, you're not going to be able to get much leads. So it's going to take you a long time to get good at sales, and that's why ultimately I strongly recommend for young people like Vanch and, you know, perhaps the people that are watching, if you are on the younger side of things, you want to build your own business, the best thing you can possibly do is start out in sales, right? Give it 1, 2, 3 years, you'll build the skill of sales itself, but the skills also around sales, being able to work with 7-figure entrepreneurs, 8-figure entrepreneurs, and so on, which we'll dive into that a little bit later because you're working with a fairly successful coach in the trading space, and that's the current account that you're on.
yeah.
But before we expand on that, you were in this role, you were making 5K a month. How long were you doing it, and then when did you transition onto something different?
I was doing it for around 3 months.
Yeah.
My action plan was, funnily enough, this is another side story. Given I'd got the role, I was like, well, I've got to put uni off now.
Yeah.
And that was like one leap that was kind of a bit terrifying because it wasn't because of fear of myself of it not working out.
100%.
I trust my commitment to be able to rock up and get stuff done. It was more external variables. So I know to a lot of South Asian kids who are watching this, a lot of South Asian youngsters, you might resonate with this.
100%.
It's dealing with your relatives.
Yeah. So many people will resonate with this because I have so many clients that are of that background. You know, you've got Bao, obviously a good friend of yours, which you guys will see on the channel real soon, don't you worry. But I have a lot of clients that are in that position. So yeah, I think a lot of people will appreciate hearing your insights.
Yeah, absolutely. And when dealing with your relatives, process doesn't really matter. You just got to show the results they're talking. So
Very much so. But even with the results, though, there's also still doubts that come with that. Absolutely.
always, it's got to be like out of this world results, which is probably, if I'll be honest, is maybe 12 months away from me before like the doubt is put to bed.
Yeah.
So these next 12 months are like make or break. But back to that story, it was around July and I started the role like 1 week before semester 2 was going to start. And I kept putting the deferral off until the day before semester 2 started. I was like, you know what, enough's enough. Put it in,
Yeah.
forget about it. Act like it never happened. Just find a way to logistically cover this. And because according to my relatives, they thought I was still going to uni 3 days a week. But realistically, I was going to a couple of my mates' house to work there. I'd go to their house and dial people and make a bit of bank from there. And that was my uni, basically. And I'd come home in the evening and just do sales training with Peter. So
that's awesome. No, I love the hustle, man.
as long as they saw the hard work, my parents, they would be chill. They wouldn't be on me too much. They'd be off my back.
Yeah.
But it was more just like hiding what the hard work was about.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't what they ideally were looking for. It was more about me and what I wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's whether or not you're from, ethnic background or even just general, like your parents are not going to accept what you're trying to do. I think that's something you need to realize early on. I've talked about this many times, but obviously I'm not a family with ethnic background, so I can't say that I completely resonate with that and I have the exact same experience, but it's going to be similar across the board. Your parents, your family, your relatives, your friends may not and most likely will not support what you're trying to do because they just won't get it straight up. And it's very normal for them to not understand it because it's a different world now. The last 10, 20 years, the world has changed significantly. And university and college, I'm not saying that it's a complete waste of time. I think in most aspects it is, unless you're kind of going for the experience. But again, this is just my opinion. Unless you're studying a degree where a career actually is required for you to jump into that job, like law or medical or whatever, like these types of careers, unless it's required, I think it's much more beneficial. This is coming from a 24-year-old, so keep in mind, I may not know anything, but just from my perspective and the way that I see things, it's becoming more and more apparent that employers want skills and they want experience. And you can't get that with theoretical knowledge at university or college, right?
Absolutely.
You have to be in the workplace doing the thing. And before we move on from that aspect, I had a conversation with a marketing agency owner when I was 18, 17, still studying in high school. And I wanted to start a marketing agency at the time. And I basically asked him, like, what do you need to see from me to come and work for you? And he just said, I don't want you to study at university or college. I don't care about any of that. I just care about practical skills. I would much rather you come and work for me and get those skills, and you're going to be much more higher paid and more valued in my company, in other companies, if you just simply learn how to do these skills. So coming back to the main point of high ticket sales specifically, if you learn that skill alone, you'll be forever employable. If you're actually good, that's the caveat. If you're actually good, even if you're somewhat average, you're going to always have companies and businesses out there that will always want to pay you money for that skill. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I'll say for that before I continue going on for minutes and minutes. But so that's where you're at. You deferred, right? So you're not studying now, right?
No, it's still summer break, and I'm probably going to be leaning towards deferring again.
Okay, cool. Yeah, fair enough. So you're deferring again. You're now kind of moving towards a decision of kind of Xing out uni and stopping doing that. And so you deferred. Then what happened next after that?
As I mentioned before, it was just going to my mate's house 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Treat it as the three uni days. The other 2 days when I was at home were probably the most paranoid days of my life. Because I was still dialing, and if I had any of my parents walk into my room while I was dialing, game over. Game over. So
I love the hustle, man.
I couldn't really focus as much on those 2 days or optimize and get my performance in. It was more just the other 3 days was just the most peace of mind you could ask for. I just had to make sure I was out of the house to make it look like it was legitimate and not really bat an eye and get their suspicion up. So even if that meant working extra harder, it'd be like, they'd be thinking, this guy's on top of uni.
Yeah.
He's working extra harder. He's just in his room all day and just works on that and goes to bed.
I love the savage. I love the savage mentality. I love the hustle. And for a lot of you guys watching this, again, this is truly what I believe is necessary and required to be successful with this. you know, I can strongly resonate with that. Like I remember the days of like waking up at like 5, 6 a.m. before work and dialing leads before I go into work at Bunnings and retail and not. I mean, I also kind of had to hide it from my parents as well. Actually, now that I
There you
remember,
go.
because I didn't want them to actually know that I'd spent 7.5K on a course and that I was doing
There
this
you go.
weird high ticket sales thing, right? So I can kind of I can resonate with that. I actually remember doing those other things.
There you go.
Yeah,
Same process. They didn't even know that I dropped the amount to get into the RSA.
that's crazy.
So
Yeah. Because I mean, I hid it from my parents for a long time. I didn't tell any of my friends or family about it for like 6 months to a year or something like that, which is fairly warranted because, again, it's going to be very uncommon that your friends and your family and your relatives will accept what you're doing. I remember even 2 years in, I was making, I don't know, something per month, something substantial at least. And even my own blood, like my cousins, thought I was in a pyramid scheme or some like MLM or something like that. You know, actually went up to my dad at Christmas and said something along the lines of, "Did you know Connor's in a pyramid scheme, in an MLM, and or like some type of scam?" So if you're watching this and you're younger, and I mean, not even just younger, just in general, like trying to go on this journey, very few, if anybody, is going to understand the journey. So I recommend you keep it to yourself until you're somewhat successful and you have some proof of concept, because even then, people will doubt you. People will, especially in Australia specifically. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
Australia has massive tall poppy
tall poppy
syndrome,
syndrome.
which a lot of you guys who are watching probably would think, what the fuck does he mean, tall poppy syndrome? And it's a weird culture that we have in Australia. It's all across the world, but it's very strong in Australia. Anybody that's doing something more than everybody else or something different is usually cut down. So I don't know. Have you had some, like, you've obviously got your close friend as well who does the YouTube stuff, but is what was your experience with friends or like talking about any of that type of stuff? Have you had conversations like that?
I've been more privileged, to be honest,
Okay.
because they were more on board, but they didn't actually
Nice.
get what was going on.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, you go Vans, you got this, right? But they weren't really aware of what the concept was behind it, which is completely fine. If
Yeah.
you're supportive, by all means, go for it. But if you're not supportive, not a problem. The door's just behind you.
I think I think it'll take a good 5, 10 years before making money online is more standard and more normalized. I think I'm seeing a bit of a shift. I'm seeing a lot more younger people have the drive to learn and be open to these type of things. Definitely not all, not the majority, but I'm seeing a lot more people like yourself, people like Bao, people like all my other clients. I'm seeing a little bit of a shift around that, but I still think we've got a long, 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 long way to go before this is like a normal thing.
And honestly, this is like the perfect time to like cash in and do it.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
before it becomes a norm, then who knows how difficult it's going to get to make money then.
Exactly.
You've got to start early, and when you start early, there's going to be uncertainty. There's going to be chaos. You have to love the chaos. You have to embrace it. You need to have an anti-fragile mindset going into this. So whenever chaos arrives, you shouldn't be breaking or just like staying unchanged. You should be growing from it. You need to embrace it, especially as you're looking for different things to what other people want, which is just a typical uni get a job route. With this route, you don't know what's going to come, but you have to fully acknowledge everything and put it on yourself. You can't go out and blaming external circumstances. Because if you care about it and prioritize enough, you'll do everything you can to make it work.
Yeah, I agree. Making money online, high ticket sales is a very unknown space. It can be chaotic, it can be turbulent. There's lots to understand, there's lots to really grasp. And unless you're ready for that, that's probably not the journey for you. But as soon as you can accept that reality, the earlier you start, the better. Because again, Vancher's 19 now, right? And we're just talking about before we started the interview. He's able to travel and see family in Perth,
Yeah, I went interstate to see family there, so it was pretty good.
which he's able to now travel to parts of Australia and be able to work and make money continuously while he goes along. And this is just the start. Next year he'll be making 10K a month and then 15K a month, because I know you're an ambitious guy, and you're surrounded by people who want to get after it. So, obviously the closer that you set for, or one of the closers who interviewed on the channel recently, 24, 23K a month. He wants to go to 30, 40 plus and so on. So you're surrounded by a good group of people. So you will definitely want to get more and more and more and more. But like heading into next year, like you'll more than likely unlock the ability to really travel and make really good income, which is going to be a crazy thing to look forward to.
Yeah. And when you just hang out with that standard of people, you have no choice to either keep up with them or just tap out.
Yeah.
Like when
Exactly.
I've got that close that's messaging me every day, I've got to get my stuff together. Otherwise, I'm in big trouble if I don't. So
Yeah.
that's a great way of having accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, honestly, the earlier you start, Vanch started with me, what time this year, do you know?
I started in March, but then it was on off.
March,
okay.
okay.
June was where it really picked up.
March, okay. So, I mean, as I talk about all the time, most likely it's going to take you 6 months to a year to see the results you're looking for. The benchmark everybody wants to do nowadays is 10K a month, that magical milestone. You should give yourself space, at least 6 months to 12 months to be able to do that. So the earlier you start, the better. The time we're recording this is, sometime in December. It's coming up to Christmas and New Year's. If you're watching this, how much longer are you willing to put this off, right? Vance is sitting here at 19, he's making practically 6-figure run rate in terms of, a yearly income with, right now, no degree, no qualifications. He started with 0 experience, right? The longer you put this off, the harder it's going to become, and the longer it will take ultimately to see the results you're looking for. There is I can't remember what I was trying to say there. Like the consistency, basically, right? The longer you put this off, the longer it's going to take, basically, in most simple layman's terms.
Yeah, that's it. And you've just got to be willing to make the hard decisions.
Mm.
Go against the norm for a bit, get headed on, get completely shut on, whatever. But over time, you will prove to be right if you just hang in there and you commit to getting better.
Yeah.
Whether it be a few months or a few years, you'll eventually be right and they'll just notice it.
And you have to have a long-term vision, right? Like, making money online is this very ominous thing. It's very mystical and it's very it seems like there's only a few that can get it. And the reason why that is one, most people lack the support and the training to get there and the guidance. But 2, there's just not enough people that are willing to stick it long enough and be consistent. Because if we were to go and have a look at what your training has looked like over the last year, 6, 7, 8 months, what does your day-to-day look like? What does your role plays look like? What has the effort been that's required to get to the point that you're at?
Certainly. So when I started on my first offer in July, I knew that it was just getting the reps in and talking to people on the phone. I had to place a lot of emphasis on training there. And that was even learning how to set properly. So a lot of the time I just come back and focus on setting for 2-3 hours a day. You'd start at maybe 7 in the evening, finish up by 10, and then go to bed straight after and do it again. And this was continued until I was proficient enough at setting. And now when you put the reps in and you're reflecting too, keyword, you have to reflect on these sessions too. You can't just do and expect to progress without reflecting and looking back. You come to a point in time where you're competent enough to not have to prioritize that skill as much, because your skill set is at a high enough level to just cruise through it intuitively. Now it's the same with closing. Maybe spend a couple hours a day again, because I haven't done it yet properly. But I've just been working on my skill set diligently to ensure that when the opportunity comes, I'm ready to take it with both hands. So you've got the usual dialing, maybe 7-8 hours a day of dialing, and then you've got training, which is 2-3 hours on top of that. So you're looking at around maybe 11 hours, 12 hours a day. Some days it's probably more, depending on how much you got roasted by Connor and his roleplay sessions.
Yeah, with love, of course, with love. But yeah, so long story short, it's going to take a fuckload of effort, basically, a shitload of effort. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be overnight. And I know I sound like a broken record, and I say this every interview, I say this in every video, but the more you realize this, the more results ultimately I will get, because you come into this training program ready, knowing that it's going to take a lot of hard work, knowing that you have to have a long-term mindset. It's going to be 6 months to a year. It's not going to be the next 30, 60, 90 days, like all the marketers tell you, this is just the realistic expectations of what it takes to win. And something I've observed in Vanch, which, you know, if you're a current client watching this or you're someone who wants to join the RSA, be like Vanch. Be like Vanch, right? As much as I'm blowing smoke up his ass. But like working hard is really, really important, and work ethic, because there's a lot of people who want something for nothing, especially in the high ticket sales space. Like, just a key emphasis on this. Like, Vanch would, don't even worry about it.
It's fine. Move it.
The amount of times that Vanch would show up to coaching calls, just as all my other successful clients, like, he would rarely miss a coaching call.
Yeah, I do remember that. I think the first 4 weeks, I rocked up to like your 12:30 a.m. ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So I rocked up to those ones, and I rocked up to your Thursday ones, and then you introduced Lucas, your other staff member.
Mm-hmm.
Good bloke, by the way, absolute G.
Shout
rocked
out
up to
Lucas.
his,
Yeah.
rocked up to his role plays too, even if they're like just before bedtime. It's like, who cares? Get the reps in.
Yeah, which again, this is the mentality that's required to win. So he was showing up to coaching calls, even though that they're at the middle of the night, you know, working in hours that he can when he's not studying at university, constantly asking me questions in the platform on school as well. Again, if you're a current client watching this, be more like Vanch, and if you want to get into my coaching program and you want to work with me, be more like Vanch. Be like all my client case studies, because again, success leaves clues. So there is a very simple formula for being successful, and it literally is just that, just following what other successful people do. And hard work ethic, or good work ethic, is a very, very big trait that I look for in my successful clients.
That's the exact same trait and mentality I possess when I go into a new offer. I just look at what the top rep's doing, just like completely analyze and dissect how they get opportunities, how they get cash coming in, how they get sales done. And I just try to mirror it to the best of my ability, and then just continue to work on that over and over again. Like in my current offer, I have an absolute legendary setter I'm working with. So he was a setting manager. In my spare time, I just listen to his calls and take note of what he's doing. And honestly, my setting skill set just shot up within a few weeks. So if you're just around the top guys, make use of it. Be proactive. Go out there and listen to their calls. Analyze what they do, not only from a skill perspective, from their identity and mindset view. Because I think that's just as important too. And when you're in the sales space, you need to hold yourself to a high standard of congruency. So Connor speaks about this a lot. I've had a lot of fears in my life, the last few months especially. But I've realized that if I can't overcome these fears myself, I have no right to tell someone else to do that.
Yep.
So the second I see a fear, you have to crush it on the spot, completely stamp it out. Only in that way do you have the privilege to tell others to do the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a current sales rep watching this, or you're currently in this space, you have to be the person that you want your prospects to show up as, ultimately. If you don't hold that standard for yourself, how can you ask others to do the same? Very, very key thing to highlight. So you've worked in the role that you're working in for a while, and you got the reps in, you got better. Did you have a couple roles up and before the trading one, or?
No, it was just more the fitness one. And then trading, and I also worked solo a bit. So I did a bit of setting there too. It was very different to how you do fitness or trading, because there's a lot of emotional buy-in to get.
Yeah.
With solo, it's purely logic. It's quite hard to get the emotional buy-in.
Who's the best solution, basically?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just who's the best solution, who's the most value.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
I did that a bit, but I still wasn't. Honestly, this trading one was like my first actual crack at having proper setting. Doing proper setting with like playing with emotions and understanding how emotions work. So realistically, I've only properly been setting for just under 2 months. Like formally understanding how to set. So
Crazy.
I've had 3 offers. The trading one's probably my first actual crack at it. Beforehand, I was just trying to practice setting itself, but it's not the same as actually going out there and doing it.
Yeah. And again, the same thing I talk about all the time is that you're really only going to get better at repetition in the right environments with sales, and time takes time. A lot of people, beginners mostly, and even people who've been in the space for a while, they think that the newest sales training that they do, it's just going to ultimately just go from here to here in terms of income. Ultimately, learning sales just takes time. Time takes time. That's the frustrating element of it. But once you're on a good offer and you're around the right people, you can significantly increase your development process. I know guys, for example, Fonz, who you guys would have seen on an interview on the channel recently with the podcasts that I did in Dubai, the podcast in Dubai. His highest month was like 30 something thousand dollars a month, and he's never actually formally done like high level sales training. He did a beginner sales training when he started out, but where he's learned is by being on good opportunities and good offers and being surrounded by the right people, sales managers, mentors, things like that. So that's where a lot of your key learning is going to come from. And again, just understanding that with any skill, time takes time. Like, you're not going to be good at this overnight, and it's something that I think a lot of beginners don't realize.
Absolutely. You can try all you can to reflect meticulously and try like compound as much as you can, but you got to accept that it does take time. And another thing that Connor mentioned is it's not only just the skill set side of things that matter a lot, it's also the offer that you're on. Because if it's one that people just want to buy and give their money away for, then by all means find it. However, you do need to have the skills to be able to find those offers, and you need to have the skills to show that you're actually sufficient enough or good enough at sales to enter those offers. So yes, while offer is everything, there's still a lot of emphasis on the skills required to get that opportunity and get that window open.
Of course. And that takes time, right? It's not like you're going to come into any training program and you're going to be competent and capable and ready to get like an S tier offer. It just takes time. Maybe you get a few offers that aren't your ideal fits, but you get some experience. You learn like actual skills while you're on the offer, setting, closing. You get good at that with time. And then once you're ready and you can actually merit a referral using networking strategies to get into an offer where you can perform, then that's perfect, right? But if you can't close and you can't sell, it's definitely not a replacement. Like, offer acquisition is not a substitution for sales skill, but it is the vast majority of the equation. But you do need to be good at the skill itself. So that's why I recommend for most beginners when they come in, get a few offers at the start. They may not be the best ones, and you might have a few false starts. You may not make a lot of money in the beginning, but then you'll find out what you're looking for, what you're not, and by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months time, you'll be at the point where you can confidently set, or you have the foundation, like the foundational skills of closing, so that if you get given the opportunity and you get put in front of the right offer, you can actually take advantage and capitalize on it, which in your case, that's exactly what happened with the trading offer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
had
tell
a
us
re-
about that.
Yeah, that was probably like, I honestly got thrown into the deep end there.
Yeah.
From day one. Because I was still like sort of scared of how I was going to go with setting. Again, I'd never properly done it before with the emotional side of things. My first day, I was trying to use a script on the trading offer, and I really struggled a lot with it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make up for acumen and how you develop yourself and how you carry yourself in the calls.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of prospects are like, who's this, who's that? They're just sort of like barraging you with questions, and you don't know how to handle it in the moment because you're trying to relax the script.
Yeah.
So then after that day, I just went into meticulous reflection, trained with a few guys, and the next day I was able to get 5 bookings in after a 0 booking day. And that was just from refining the skill set and being able to reflect. So the truth is, yeah, good offers everything. However, you need to also have those traits in place. And you just have to keep going and keep showing you're willing to learn, because guys will give you a chance for maybe a week or two.
Yeah.
But in that week or two, you have to learn quickly enough to show that you're good enough too at the same time. And this finally came to a point in time, like a few days ago, probably the biggest achievement I've had personally yet. Ended up smashing 2.1K in a day.
Crazy.
So
crazy.
3 deals going through, and yeah, while it was one day, and it all happened on the one day.
Yeah.
It's the compounding effect of just pushing your inputs, getting those dials in and talking to people.
Yeah.
Getting them sent to sales calls, see if they're the right fit and see if they need the help they're looking for. So while it all happened in a day, it was realistically about probably
months of work.
2 weeks to actually get all that onboarded.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
there is that compounding effect too. If you're not seeing anything yet, I wouldn't stress too much. Focus solely on what you're doing. You shouldn't be focused on the outcome. There's this I think this quote that I just came across. It's like, people who fight to win are not going to outlast the people who just want to fight.
100%. Yep, I agree with that. Absolutely.
So you have to enjoy the scrap. You have to love the shit days. Because when you love the shit days, imagine what the good days are like.
100%. Yeah, I mean, that brings back to the whole idea of consistency of what we spoke about earlier. And that's a great quote. I 100% agree, because that's exactly how I was when I started out. It's just about consistency. It's like if you love the work, then you will get the result inevitably. Focus on what you get in, not what you get out. Because ultimately, when you first start with things, particularly with sales and high ticket sales, like there is no ceiling, but there is also no floor. So when you start out, you're not going to get paid very much because you're not very good. But you will see a direct correlation between how hard you work and the longer you've been doing it to your income increasing. Like with your example, it took 2 weeks in the offer to learn things and get ramped up. But in reality, that truly was a representation of months and months and months of training and work and role plays and coaching calls.
That's right.
You know, it's nothing and then it's something very, very, very quick.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight, so 2.1K in a day.
Yeah.
How does that compare to what you're doing, like your previous job? Like what were you even doing before high ticket sales?
I was working a swimming job, so 2.1K is probably like, I was working like a couple of shifts a week.
Crazy.
2.1K a day probably cost like 2.5 months of that.
Crazy.
So
Crazy.
just ridiculous stuff, really. So I was working the swimming job, to be honest. I always knew that I never wanted to like work at a fixed location.
That's insane.
The plan was to always find a sales role and just ditch it.
That's
Go
insane.
all in.
So 2.5 months work in a day.
Basically.
That's crazy. And even though you're working part-time a couple of days a week, that's still insane. 2.5 months work in a day. That's ridiculous. I mean, I think from memory, when I was working at my previous job in retail, it was like 40 hours a week.
Yep.
And I think 2 weeks would maybe get me around like 1.8K after tax or something like that. So yeah, like that would have been like 80 hours of work plus more for me that you earned in a day.
Basically.
And setting too, not even
While
closing
setting
just
too,
yet.
so still working on the closing skill set.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still a work in progress, but yeah, it's crazy how that just happens so quickly. As long as you just hang in there, just keep focusing on your inputs and reflect on your inputs. A lot of people just go out there and dial, but it's like, what's the point of dialing if you're not analyzing the list that you're calling? Because you could be just calling dead leads and they don't pick up. Yeah, you got $200, but who picked up?
Yeah.
You need to be doing $200 with the right people.
Yeah. That's actually a great point that you highlighted. I can't remember what I called this, but I made a training module in 2.0 about this, which is that there's no rewards for just showing up, right?
That's right.
You have to show up the right way and intentionally. It's like, for example, it's not enough to just come to coaching calls. You have to be asking questions. You have to be implementing. You have to be listening. You have to be taking notes. You know, if people just show up to 6 months to a year's worth of calls and they're not getting the results, well, yeah, for sure, because they didn't actually implement properly. It's the same thing as like when you got graded in school and you did an exam or an assessment, were you graded on whether or not you did the work or how well you did it, right? I think a lot of people mistake the fact that, like, yeah, I know I did it, but it's like, yeah, you did it, but to like what efficacy, to what quality. And the thing I've noticed with Vance as well, even you just saying the way that you think, as something to observe and analyze, is that the most successful people don't just show up, but they show up with a high level of intensity and a high level of quality, right? Efficacy, because that's really what gets you results at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you pay off your ignorance debt by doing, not consuming. Because you're more than welcome to just rock up and consume, but what's the point if you're not putting into action?
Yeah.
You're just you're a walking book, is how I could describe it. Like you need to also take action and be willing to go out there and get flamed. Which is why I also emphasize drop the ego when you come in.
Yeah.
Completely drop it. Trust Connor on his guidance. He's been in here for 5 years. Basically got ung status now. So
yeah, grandpa of the space.
Grandpa of the space. So
yeah.
he's while he's more experienced than you, you're probably a man stupid within 2 weeks. So it's going to come back and hit you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Been doing this a long time. It's crazy to think that I've been in the space for 5 years now. 24, I started when I was basically 19. So, yeah, crazy, crazy time. So, tell us, I mean, it's very simple about what you sell. How do you help people? What do you do? Yeah, like what problem does your company solve you sell for?
We solve a lot of financial problems, people not getting the freedom they're looking for from a time and location perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So their hours are constricted because they're on a fixed routine and also they're at a fixed location.
Mm-hmm.
So we provide a solution that gives you the flexibility you're looking for and also allows you to get the financial wins you want.
Mm-hmm.
But it also requires a lot of education and guidance to do that. So we're basically an education program on how to trade.
Interesting.
That's literally it.
Yeah. So, super cool. And the price of the trading program, how much is it?
I don't know if I can mention it here because
Oh,
if
interesting.
I price drop, someone comes on here. But I'm happy
Okay.
to mention it. There's packages we typically get from like 10 to 20K typically.
Yeah.
That's the price.
Yeah. So it's expensive, long story short. So the higher the ticket means more commissions for you. Like how much commissions do you earn per set?
So I get 5% comms.
Nice.
Had a last week, actually had 4 deals go through. So there was the 2.1K day, and then the day before, or a couple of days before, there was a 20K package that went through.
Crazy.
So that's probably like with a bit of base also around 3.6, 3.7K in a week,
Nice.
which was what you get from some crazy commissions. And don't
Yeah.
get too startled by the high ticket price. I mean, if you're solving people's pains and problems, they'll do anything they can to get that money and be resourceful.
100%. Like I've sold like products and solutions that cost $30,000 or $50,000, and I might surprise you hearing this, but again, just like Vanch said, if the problem is high enough and your solution is good enough, people will absolutely go out of their way to buy it. Long story
Right.
short, and you can earn great commissions in doing so in high ticket sales. 30K, you might earn $3,000 per sale. Again, might be crazy, but these things actually do exist out there, and I've experienced it myself. Vanch has experienced it himself, and all the other case studies on the channel. So, what's your transition to closer? What's that look like? What are the steps you need to take to get there?
Yeah, probably still keep working on the skill set. Rock up to Connor's calls, Lucas's calls, get flamed in all of them. Be open to getting flamed. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Continue to work on that skill set, and then obviously it's a bit quieter time now, so probably wait for things to pick up and then enter into closing.
Cool.
Because I think that'll be like properly 3 months after offsetting.
Mhm.
So maybe end of Jan is like my proper 3 month mark of setting on a legitimate off.
Nice.
Not legitimate, but I mean by actually indulging in proper setting skills. So by Feb we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just checking if room cleaning's coming in for the second interview this time. I put the do not disturb sign on this. I've learned from last one. It's a memes interview. If you know,
Yeah.
you know. If they come in, I'll just tell them to go away. But anyways, so cool. So you've got a clear transition to closing, which is great. Let's talk about your experience inside RSA and what you've had there as well. So you've had the contrast of doing 2 training programs now. What do you feel has been the key differences between what I do, RSA, and everything else that you've seen out in the market?
Yeah, with RSA, it's got everything covered for you. So it goes really into depth. A lot of short videos though, so it's really compact and layman's to understand. RSA not only teaches you the general skills of sales, but it's also how you show up, how you execute interviews is probably the big one. Because I think that a lot of people, when they start off, they struggle with the interview stage because they're just like imposter syndrome's kicking in.
Yeah.
They're not really sure where to go from there. Big emphasis on the interviews, big emphasis on how to reach out to people and network with them, and big emphasis on getting those big offers. So those are probably the big things, because from there, every sales training has the sales skill set.
Yeah.
But where RSA stands out the most is with how you get into the market and how you break through.
So offer acquisition
Offer
mainly,
acquisition
but also
and
when you're starting out as well.
When you're starting out, because that's probably the biggest thing that helped me in my first 28 days. Because it was like, yeah, cool, I can learn the skills, but how am I going to apply these skills if I don't know what offers to find and how to actually break into the market? So those skills are probably the most important ones when you're starting out. How you carry yourself, especially too. That's probably the most important thing.
Oh, great. And so what's your experience been like in there? As far as like the coaching wise, me, team, Lucas, and a couple of other guys as well. Um, like, what has your experience been like working with me across the board? And, like, what would your general feedback be?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, you keep things very intuitive and very, very layman's to understand.
Mm.
But I know that you have a lot of knowledge in you. The course is a very good way to get started. But
Yeah.
I know there's way more you've got behind you that you'd be willing to explain. So if you're a beginner, definitely have a go at it. Have a crack at it, because this is the most intuitive thing that you understand. It's really straightforward. You hop in and you notice that a lot of the lessons that Connor talks about and a lot of the questions that he asks almost covered in the training.
Mm.
If you ask a question to him, 95% is covered in the training.
Yeah.
So it's really
Yeah.
in depth and should cover your doubts. And plus, you've always got someone to reach out to and always ask. So he's always there for you. He genuinely does put a huge pedestal on his clients.
How's your experience been from that element as far as like the one-on-one that you've been able to have with me, and the other guys as well, but specifically me, because I want to emphasize the importance on that. Um, how has your experience been being able to message me one-on-one when you have a problem, or like what has our communication been like over like the last year?
Oh, it's huge. Like, that's really monumental. I'll message Connor before going to bed and I'll just wake up knowing there's a message. I mean, you've got the 7 hour time difference, so it's pretty
Yeah,
logical for
yeah,
that to
yeah.
happen. But it's like the second you reach out to him, he's open hands, willing to help you out. So don't hesitate to be proactive and reach out to him. So he's always there for his clients, always messaging, really consistent with the trainings and running on schedule. It's the same thing with the team also, with Lucas and Jordan. Those guys are the exact same. They're always really open arms and will prioritize you and respond to you within 12 to 24 hours.
Great, love it. Perfect. Okay. If someone's sitting on the fence as well, like in terms of making money online, RSA, like what would you tell that person that's maybe been watching the YouTube channel for a while, they've been watching these videos, these interviews, or my videos, or a ton of videos out there on YouTube how to make money online? Like, what would you tell that guy or gal who's kind of sitting on the fence?
Well, what does a while mean specifically though? Is it a few weeks, few months, a year?
Well, to the guys watching it, could have been days, weeks, months, years, right? There are people who watch YouTube videos, and because I was once that guy, right?
I was saying too,
Which I mean, we all were, curious, but not enough to like make that jump and scared of taking that risk. Like people who've been doing it for weeks, months, years.
Well, it's like walking across a bridge between two canyons. It's a very long, narrow bridge. You have no idea what's on the other side. It's a foggy day. The unknown's there, but guess what? In any other instance, you probably had an unknown. Whoever's watching this, you probably had a crush on someone. You probably wanted to go out somewhere. You just don't know what's going to happen, but you still took it on. You probably go out on the street. You don't know what's going to happen on the street. You might get hit by a bus. You might get hit by a car. God forbid. But universally, wherever you go, you don't know what the next steps are. No matter how much you try to blanket it with certainty, there's always some degree of uncertainty there. But what you have to do is you have to acknowledge it. Acknowledging is the first step. You have to look into yourself with introspection and reflect on, like, hey, I'm consuming a lot, but how's my ignorance debt looking? Is it really high? Is it really low? Like, where am I in terms of that metric? How do I get it down? And being on the fence, that feeling won't go away. Like, you're going to be on the fence for a long time. But the only person who can back it up and get that feeling to slowly go away is yourself. It's completely on you. You have to be able to make the hard decisions in hard times. And there's eventually a trade-off, because, to be honest, life is just picking the least worst trade-off. Is it that you want just the downside of staying the same? You keep doing what you're doing, you kick the can down the road? Or do you just use that feeling of being on the fence and just constrict and taking massive action? Because I'll tell you what, I've been there, done that. When I was like 16, right? As we all know, teenage love happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Teenage love happens.
It does.
Had a breakup happen then. So I was like, you know what, this feeling's kind of shit, but I can shape it to one of two things. I can let it consume me and destroy me. Or I can let it take care of the next few years. You got to pick which downside. You're going to either have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. I'll be very honest with you, there's always some pain involved. It's just, what do you want specifically and what you're looking for? And to be honest, if you keep looking for months and you just keep going down the track, it's eventually going to be too late to start. Because by then, everyone's jumped on it. It's like with Bitcoin. You've got to be willing to find out what's next. And so what? What happens if you try and it doesn't work out? If you put all the effort in, you can go to bed knowing that you went out swinging and tried your best anyway. I don't even think that sounds that bad. It's worse than just not trying and not knowing what's going on. So realistically, we've got one of two options. We let it just consume us. We keep taking that ignorance debt up. We never do anything, we just stay in the same position. Or we just shape and take massive action. Choose your discomfort. It's either the blue pill or the red pill. It's binary. You've got to pick one. So if you're on the fence, like, I'll be very honest, I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. Like, that unknown feeling is going to stay. It's just how you use it to push some drive and make a change.
I love that dude. That's why he's here today. This is why he's in Melbourne, Crown Towers, Crown Casino. You know, it's obviously it's a pretty cool moment. I know it was for me when I first met somebody who live in these places, or like you know, live in these hotel rooms and these stays. It's probably a pretty surreal experience, but that's why he's here, right? Ultimately, he has that mindset. He has the right mindset to be successful, and it's obviously very clearly communicated for a 19-year-old. A lot better communicated than I was when I was 19. It took me a long time to really get to that point where I can clearly convey ideas like Vance just did. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of takeaways you can have from this interview. But
Yeah.
I would even ask like for final notes, but I feel like you kind of...
I'm happy to put a few there.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
I'm happy to put a few. Yeah, so it's like, cool, if you try it, you have a chance at winning. And even if you don't win, you have a cool story to tell in the future.
Absolutely.
You can go to your kids and be like, yo, I try to make money online. Here's why it didn't go well. But if you want to do it, here's what you can do. So in a sense, you could be serving people in the future with your experiences too. People always want to know. And another thing is like sales, like from what I've learned sales personally, it hasn't just helped me with just making money online and learning the skills itself, but it's also helped me with how I've strengthened my relationships in person.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a huge lifesaver.
Yeah.
It's helped me build meaningful relationships. I've been able to go on committees and make changes there too. So it's quite a universal thing, just beyond the money that everyone talks about. So I think we talked about this very briefly. I got into a committee for a not-for-profit organisation.
Yep, I remember.
And led a big change there. So it's not all about the money. I know a lot of people might just jump in for it, but it's a skill set that's so universal. If for you guys out there, blokes, if you want to go talk to girls, you have to use objection handling on them. If you want to go talk to your friends, you've got to use sales on them. You've got to be actively listening. You've got to be having that empathy and building rapport. If you want to build relationships like this with Connor, same thing here. So it's one of the most universal skill sets, and you can literally never go broke again if you're good enough at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ability to communicate is most people can't in reality. In terms of just clarity in speech and being able to communicate ideas, it takes thousands of repetitions to do that. And when you're in sales, especially if you're a younger person, guy or gal, it can help you become more competent in your ability to communicate. It's the best way I can put it. I talk about all the time how I could barely pick up the phone to order a pizza 5 years ago at 19. I was a very shy person, and sales has given me the ability to communicate, given me the ability to, again, communicate ideas to massive amounts of people, just as we're doing through this YouTube video right now.
Absolutely.
So, anything else to add before we tie off today?
No, that was it.
Perfect. I think that was a great interview. I think you guys must have learned a lot, again, from someone who's crushing it, just like Vanch, and who's doing super well. So hopefully you found it really valuable, and there's a lot of lessons you can take from this one, regardless if you want to join my training program or not. It's really what I want these interviews for at the end of the day. One, to convince you to join my training program, and two, obviously you can learn from people in the space who are doing super well.
Absolutely.
So if you want to be like Vanch and you want to be like all the other case studies on my channel, you want to get results heading into next year in 2025, booking a call. There will be a link down below in the description box, type form. At least spend 3 to 5 minutes filling it out. Don't put, I want to make more money, and the reason why you want to join the RSA, because we do cancel applications, myself and Lucas, all the time. So make sure that you put in just a little bit of effort. I'm not asking for your life story, but I am asking for some type of commitment because, again, with the RSA, We don't just accept anybody and everybody. The reason we get such a great results is because we work with such great people, and you would see a very common theme and a lot of commonalities and similarities amongst the case studies on my YouTube channel. And the reason why, again, is we accept and we work with the right people. That's why we get such great results. Besides of me and the training and everything else, we work with great people. So if you feel like you're like Bench, and if you feel like you like all the other case studies on the channel, apply for a link down below, and me or the team will speak to you about potentially helping you with the transformation that Bench has done, I've done, and all my other clients. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed that one, and we'll see you in the next case studies.